Hey guys, in this video I will show you how I post-process this project called Corrupted. This was the raw render and this is after I post-processed. This is not a really complicated project, but it contains some interesting things, so let's get straight to it. I had three main objectives going into this project. First of all, fixing some of the issues that the raw render had. For instance, if you look at the ground, there's some gaps in the ground. I think it's because of the displacement texture, but I don't exactly know what causes this issue, and it seems like an easy task to do in Photoshop. So yeah, that's one. The second one is to add the smokes for the fire and fix the fire so that it actually looks like the things are burning. And finally, to add color correction, grain, and some effects so that it looks realistic. Alright, so let's get started. First things first, I needed to fix the ground. I duplicate the render layer and use spot healing brush to fix those gaps. I am making sure not to overdo it or remove anything that wasn't necessary for me to remove, because that would look really weird if I removed, say, one of the trashes or something. After that, I saw this gap on the right side. I didn't realize it when I was rendering it. The easy fix was to create a new layer and color the same color around it, and after that it was fixed. After that, I fixed the light on the police car because it was glass and I just added a point light within the glass, so it wasn't emitting the entirety of the glass, if that makes sense. But it was just an easy fix. I made a new layer and just colored it in, and it actually worked. And after that, I realized the sticker on the car, I didn't want it to be visible in the final render, so the easy fix was to use the spot healing brush and color it in again. After that, my objective was to make those identical fire assets to not look very similar to each other. So the way I did it was to use a spot healing brush to remove some of the parts of the fire that I don't need, and a smudge tool for some smudging of the fire. And then I used the smudge tool again to fix the contact point of the fire and some of the 3D assets in the scene. They weren't connecting that well before, but with that tool it was somewhat working. After that, onto adding smokes for the fire. I have a bunch of smoke brushes in my Photoshop library. I use them to add smokes all the time. I firstly added some smokes that make sense to the fire first, and then I added a big overall smoke for the entire scene. After that, it was looking great. Now onto adding some glows to the scene. It was just a basic painting here and there with low opacity. I also realized that there was nothing emitting through those glass, so I painted with a small brush size with white color. And then I realized I forgot to save, so I saved the project and get back to adding more glows. Fire was the most crucial part in adding the glow, because in the real life they are very, very bright. I made sure that the core of the fire is emitting more light than the other part of the fire. And then I searched for some particles online, brought in some of the stuff that I like. I tend to use the ones with the black background so that I can use the screen blending mode and use a mask and paint in just the parts that I need. After that, I duplicated like around 3 times, and then I placed them across the scene and painted back in the places that I would need them to be at. After checking what differences I've made so far, I went on to add a tiny fog. And the way I did that was to create an orange solid layer and use a mist pass as a mask. I changed the blending mode to soft light and reduced the opacity to my liking. Finally, I added some rain. I also have some rain brushes in my Photoshop library. I use the same mist pass as a mask of those rain. And I wanted to add some splashes to the ground, but I didn't know how to do so with the brush itself. I should have done it in Blender, but I didn't. So I just painted some parts of it with the splash brush, and it was subtle, but it was there. And after that, I used lens blur to blur out all the stuff that are not in focus. I used the mist pass again as a mask to control which part is in focus, and I realized that the rain wasn't really in focus anymore, and that was looking a little bit weird, so I painted back in some of the rain. I used a mask to mask out some of the parts that the rain doesn't need. And then I found out that the first rain that I added was visible on top of the tires that are so close to the camera, and I thought that was pretty realistic, so I reverted back the lens blur and changed the first rain again. After that, I had to do the lens blur again, and this time it was looking quite good, but as you can see, the rain is not in focus anymore, so I have to paint back in the rain again and do the same exact thing as I did before. After fixing more stuff that I thought I needed to fix, it was time for Camera Raw filter. The most important part in this step is to bring more vibrance to the photo, because I thought it was looking a little bit dull. And after color correcting a little bit using color grading wheels, it was looking better. I also increased the texture and sharpening of this entire image so that the textures are pretty sharp in the focus. After that, I also used Magic Bullet Photo Looks to add in some filters like exposure, grain, chromatic aberration, haze and flare, and some diffusion. And after that, it was pretty much done. So I hope you guys learn a thing or two from this project. It is huge from the raw render and after the post-processing. And again, post-processing is a really huge step to take. Don't be lazy in post-processing your renders. It helps so much with the artwork. I can't say that enough. But anyway, again, thanks for watching, and see you guys next time.